Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for Eve Echoes. Today we're going to be looking at the Arbitrator Covert Ops, and hang on Benzie, didn't you say that these were pointless? No, what I said was that the Arbitrator, the Bellicose, the Celestis, and the Blackbird, the standard tier 6 versions, those were pointless compared to other ships in a similar sort of area that do the same kind of thing. Like, there's no point using an Arbitrator over using a Vex and Navy issue, for example, if you're into drones. But the Arbitrator Covert Ops has some interesting abilities to it, which we're going to discuss in this video, because I have a sneaky suspicion this may actually be better than the Prophecy. And if that's not a sort of a tagline for this video, something to hook you in, a little bit clickbaity perhaps, there it is. This could be better than the Prophecy, and that's what we're going to find out in this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Arbitrator Covert Ops, we're going to have a look at its statistics, we're going to look at how to fit it, we're going to look at how to use it, and we're going to look and see if this is the kind of ship that might be worth parking in your garage in Eve Echoes for running some seriously cool AFK anomalies, and there are some interesting features we'll be going over. Anyway, so if you do enjoy this video or find it useful, let me know by hitting like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things Eve Echoes, ding that notification bell so that you never miss an upload, and of course let me know what ships you want to see me fit in future ship fitting guides, and let me know what topics you want me to cover in future videos as well by commenting down below. Finally, if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel on Patreon, you can do so by joining us on the link shown along the bottom of the screen now. Awesome, that said and done then, let's jump right into talking about the Arbitrator Covert Ops. The Arbitrator Covert Ops is the Tech Level 7 Covert Ops cruiser for the Amarr Empire. So if we head to their ship tree to the cruiser branch and climb up to Tech Level 7, there it is in the middle, the Arbitrator Covert Ops. Yes, it's another Amarr ship. It's not that I'm a closet Amarr fan, I still really don't like how most Amarr ships look, I still really don't like the lore and the backstory of the Amarr Empire, but it's hard to deny that right now in Eve Echoes, the Amarr ships are some of the best ones out there. They've got some really cool ships that do a lot of really interesting things. Now, looks-wise, the Arbitrator Covert Ops is one of those that's not really amongst my favourites. I do like that handsome red and gold colour scheme, but I don't like the whole capital A look to it. It's a little bit flat for my tastes. I'm just not, it's not really my personal thing, but there we are. You might absolutely adore it. Can't account for personal taste. Anyway, attributes and fittings. Looking at the fitting profile here, we have 4 drone tubes that can launch either small or medium drones. Definitely then a drone ship. 2 high slots, 3 mid slots, 4 low slots, 3 power grid rigs, and 3 mechanical rigs with a fairly sizable power grid of 595 megawatts. Looking at its defences, 12,361 isn't overly huge. It's good for a cruiser. Obviously, it's not quite the Prophecy's amount, but it's a cruiser. What do you expect? Most of that is, of course, in armour. 3,919 in the armour, 2,660 in shield, 3,202 in structure. It's an Amarr ship. Amarr ships are almost without exception completely armour tanks, and the Arbitrator Covert Ops does not do anything to buck that trend. Definitely an armour tank right there. Looking at its signature radius, 91.3 meters is a little bit large for a cruiser, and honestly, I would have thought that for a Covert Ops cruiser, the signature radius would be a little bit lower, but a scan resolution of 342 is above average for a ship of this size, so I can't complain too much there. Flight velocity as well of 270 meters per second, not terrible at all. It's not the fastest thing out there in the fleet, but it's definitely not slow, and it doesn't take too long to move around the battlefield, especially if you fit propulsion systems, as we'll see later. A warp speed of 4.0 astronomical units per second does allow you to relocate from system to system very quickly for a cruiser, which is nice if you're going encounter running. Decent inertia modifier as well means it does turn fairly quickly. Anyway, let's look at the traits here. So a roll bonus is applied to the Arbitrator Covert Ops, +1 maximum Covert Ops cloaking devices. As the name would imply, you can fit a Covert Ops cloaking device. Now obviously a cloaking device, a basic like Mark 5 or Mark 7 cloaking device, can be fit to any ship. These allow you to essentially turn invisible, disappear from the local grid, and not appear into anyone's nearby overview. Very, very useful little things in certain situations, but you can't do anything whilst cloaked. What a Covert Ops cloak allows you to do is to cloak and still be able to warp. That means you can actually move around with the Arbitrator Covert Ops with it cloaked, poke your head into anomalies, scout for different things, see what's going on, and then actually then drop that cloak and engage. Now, this is not a stealth bomber. There is a decloaking targeting delay applied. When you drop your cloak, there's about 30 seconds before you can lock onto a target, which of course means this is not designed for PvP ambushing. You're not going to sneak up behind someone, drop that cloak, lock on, and hit them before they know what's happened. You're going to sneak up behind them, drop that cloak, and then stare at them intensely for 30 seconds and hope they don't warp off. It's for scouting and being able to jump around systems without anyone knowing where you are. It's not for ambushing. Anyway, let's have a look at the skill bonuses, because this is where things get really interesting with the Arbitrator Covert Ops. Now, Advanced Micro Warp Drive Operation, which I do actually happen to have on most of my characters, gives a plus 7.5% increase to weapon disruptor strength. What are weapon disruptors? Well, they're an E-War module, electronic warfare module, that isn't actually in the game yet. This is why I've not covered the Arbitrator, the Bellicose, the Celestis, or the Blackbird yet, because they're based on E-War modules that don't really exist. The Arbitrator still gets a bonus to these, but it does get other uses elsewhere. Eventually, once weapon disruptors are added into the game, yes, I will look at the Arbitrator and the Arbitrator Covert Ops again with that in mind, so we're going to ignore that for the time being. Essentially what they do, though, is make the opponent's weapons worse, like they track slower, they've got less range, that kind of thing. Anyway, the bonus there that is important is the Micro Warp Drive Signature Radius penalty. At full Advanced Micro Warp Drive Operation 5, that is a 50% reduction to Warp Drive Signature Radius penalty, which means you're not so ludicrously large a target when you're using your Micro Warp Drive to relocate. The important skill, though, is here. Advanced Cruiser Command bonus per level, a minus 4% to the signature radius. There's what I was saying earlier about wouldn't it be nice if this had a smaller signature radius, and a 20% increase to drone DPS with a 3-kilometer drone control range. That means assuming you've got Advanced Cruiser Command bonus up to 5, you have a 15-kilometer increase to drone control range, a 100% increase to your drone DPS, and a 20% reduction to your signature radius. So as a quick bit of maths there, it's a 20% reduction to 91.3. What does that work out? It's about a fifth off, so I can't work that out. It's what, 10 meters-ish, somewhere around there, 10-15 meters? It's still a fairly sizable amount that brings this down into line with a much smaller cruiser than it actually is. The drone control range, that 15 kilometers extra, on top of the fact that you've probably got drone trained all the way up to level 5 by now, should give you a plus 20 kilometer drone control range, giving you a full 40 kilometer drone control range baked into the ship. And the 100% drone DPS is just really nice. And notice that comes from Advanced Cruiser Command. That means if you haven't been training much into the way of drone skills, you're still going to be getting decent bonuses from this ship. Excellent if you've just decided that drone ships might be your thing, because, I don't know, maybe missiles are getting a nerf, and you've decided that you don't want to continue down the missile path, so you're now retraining into drones. But drone skills require a lot of time and skill points to actually get off the ground. As such, though, if you've been using something like, say, a Caracal because you liked your missiles, and you're now looking to move into drone ships, this one, your skills that you've already trained are already benefiting you, and you're just going to get better and better and better whilst you train up the other relevant drone skills. Very, very useful for starting that sidestep out of missiles and into drones. This ship was built and supplied by Vintastic, who is one of the Catskill Cartel's resident cruiser builders, and actually one of our officer team, so a big thank you and a shout out there to Vintastic for building and supplying this ship for me. Now, before we jump into this one, I just want to say that my prophecy video apparently kicked off a hell of a lot of debate. A lot of people coming into the comments really aggressively, and I do mean aggressively, like, your fit is trash, you're all wrong. It's like, my fit's not trash because I showcase it in the video. It might not be as optimal as the fit you're running, but can we please try and use a bit more civilized language when talking to each other? Yeah, okay, some of you guys are going to be like, oh, is poor Benzie's fee-wings getting hurt? No, I just don't really have the time to sit there and respond to douchebags in the comments section. If you're rude, I'm just going to scroll past and keep talking. If it's really rude, I'm just going to delete it or possibly hide you from the channel, so do better. Talk to me, engage with me, tell me what you think you could do to improve on a fit. That's awesome, because I know people watch the videos, try those fits out, then come back to the comments section and do read through and see what other people are doing. I love to see what other people are doing. I know my viewers and my commenters love to see what each other are doing as well, so don't be a douchebag about it, and your comment will actually stay around and might help someone. That said, this build is probably not optimal. I'm not going for the very best meta-breaking build in EVE Echoes. I'm going for something that any old Joe can jump into and use to do some high-level missions to great effect. As such, what we're looking at here is, of course, a drone sniper build. If we look into the rigs, I've gone for 3 drone control range augmenters. Note that these do not have a penalty. That's an additional 30 kilometers range, which with all the skills would give you 70 kilometers drone control range. Unfortunately, I'm only at advanced cruiser command here of 4, hence I'm only at 67 kilometers, but frankly 67 kilometers is still disgusting, and that then brings us to the top slots here. Now, the top slots I've gone for are Mark 7 large missile launchers. Why? Because these have an insane range of 65.8 kilometers. This means at 65 kilometers, I can actually be hitting comfortably with all of my weapons. I can have my drones in combat, and I'm launching these missiles. Now, you'll notice at this point in time that I've only got one of these active, because if I try to activate the second one here, you'll see I don't have enough power grid. And in order to fit that, I would need 2 power grid 2 rigs, the ancillary power grid router rigs. I would need 2 of those, and they're selling for about 80 million on the market now, and I didn't have 160 million to spare in order to get myself an additional 36 DPS. Quite frankly, having one of these is enough to showcase it in a video. If you like the look of this and you want to sort of maximize that, yeah, pop in 2 of those ancillary power grid rigs, get yourself the second of the large missile launchers, heck, even upgrade them to something like Caldari Navy or even Dead Space. The Pith C-type large missile launchers are available, and they're not overly expensive by comparison to some of the other missile systems. If you can fit them into your power grid, do it, it's extra damage. Same there in the subject of damage. Looking at the drones I've gone for here, I have gone for 2 of the Vespers and 2 of the Hobgoblins, sorry, Hammerheads, medium-sized Hammerheads. Now, again, I've had endless discussions with people about what the best drone combination is. Now, for me, a lot of people sit there and say, oh, 4 Hammerheads is by far the best. We ran the numbers. Mine, who helped me with that prophecy video, did a lot of research yesterday, and I will do a video on this at some point, I promise, about what the best builds are for drones going up against different types of ships. And ultimately, whilst 4 Hammerheads is sometimes the optimal, it's not always the optimal. And simply put, Hammerheads are selling for about 25 million on the market, whereas those Vespers cost me 7 million each. And by dropping to the 2 Vespers, rather than having 4 Hammerheads, I lose less than 1% DPS overall. It's really not that huge. Like, a lot of people get very upset about their drones, and try to optimize it, but quite frankly, I'm not spending 4 times as much on the drones for less than a percentile of DPS. Now, for the low slots here then, as we're going for a sniper build, as I've mentioned before in other sniper videos, the first part of sniping is range, the second part of sniping is range control. That's where a dealer medium micro warp drive comes into play here, as this allows us to relocate and reach our effective range very, very quickly. If something's out of range, I can get to that 65 kilometer range almost instantly, and if I need to pull back a bit, the micro warp drive allows me to do that at pace. It's better than an afterburner in this case, because I only need to activate it very rarely just to control and manipulate where my range is exactly. The 2 middle of the low slots here are both bat drone damage amplifiers, DDAs. These, of course, are the weapon upgrades for drones. Having this fitted gives a flat 5% damage bonus to your drones, and when you activate it, not only does it speed up their activation time, but it also increases their damage again a little bit higher. I will showcase that later on in combat just to show you what the DPS does actually hit with both those active. Yes, having 2 of these on here does give a penalty. The second one doesn't give quite as big a boost as the first, but it does seem to work quite nicely. It's a little bit of extra DPS, and quite frankly, there wasn't really anything else I can fit in that slot. Yeah, if I ignore the fact that I've got that second second missile launcher then in the high slots. I could swap that for something like an omnidirectional tracking link, but I am getting reports, unverified at this point in time, I am getting reports that those aren't working as intended. So I just haven't risked it, and I've gone for straight up DPS. It's also still fairly cheap extra damage. But what about if you start taking damage? Well, some people pointed out that like the medium group shield boosters and the medium group armor boosters are a pretty good module just to help you help you recover any incidental damage you take. If I get a little bit of splash damage onto my shields, I can activate that shield group shield booster, and it will start to refill my shield. It's not much. I mean, look, shield boost amount of 116 per activation isn't huge. 116 every 15 seconds. It's nothing comparable to an actual shield booster, but it takes up a mid slot rather than a low slot, and it also uses fuel. So you do need to start putting some fuel into the cargo hold of your ship. I tend to use plasmids just because I've got a whole ton of them sitting around, and because they're what I've been harvesting with my PP. But there we go. Same then with the armor repairer. Again, 18 seconds, 139 armor. It's really not much, but it doesn't need to be. I can just push away to safety and use that to top up a little bit, burning fuel to replace my shields and my armor. It's better than me filling out a low slot with something like that. Now, the fourth and final low slot then is a Mark V Covert Ops cloaking device. Again, you can see here this does give me the ability then to cloak. There is that cloaking targeting delay of 30 seconds, so if I do drop the cloak, it's 30 seconds before I can lock onto anything else, and it's 30 seconds before I can actually reactivate that cloak. Remember, if something locks onto you, you cannot activate your cloaking device. This does have a negative effect on the scan resolution. That means that the scan resolution on this particular ship has been dropped by 45% for having the cloaking device fitted, which means it does take longer to lock on. But then again, when you're sitting at 65 kilometers away from something, do you really care that it takes a second or two longer to lock on to something? You're going to be able to still shoot them and hit them before they get anywhere close to you 90% of the time. Now, for the low rigs here, for the mechanical rigs, as I've mentioned, if you do want to bring that second missile launcher online, then 2 ancillary power grid router 2s are going to be your best bet. Otherwise, I'd look at something like, for example, a dynamic fuel valve, so that you're using a little bit less capacitor when you activate the micro warp drive, and you could possibly go into something like a targeting rig, just to help you lock onto the opponents a little bit faster as well. To showcase the Arbitrator Covert Ops in action, I thought it would be fun, like the Prophecy, to try and do one of the storyline missions. So I've come out here to Krialair with one of the Galente storyline missions. I think it's called Sweet Poison. I have to say, before we jump in, this is a rather unusual situation. I don't think I've ever seen two dockable stations this close to each other in any other system. But anyway, that's what we're not what we're here to talk about. So let's have a look. Cosmic Anomaly, Sweet Poison 1. We're going to warp in at the 100 kilometers mark, and we are going to do so under the effects of the Covert Ops cloak. So if I activate that, you'll see the ship there cloaks with this gorgeous little animation, and then we're going to jump in, hopefully 100 kilometers or so away from any possible threats. That said though, let's go into the overview and change that to ship, and we'll see what we're up against. So here we are, Sweet Poison. We have a Corelli Catalyst Covert Ops, Corellum Thorax Interdictor, Core Hyperion, Corellum Myrmidon 2 Command, and a Megathron Striker. Now the Striker is showing there that it is currently yellow boxing me. I think that is an error in the overview. It shouldn't be able to, but you can see we're a little bit too close to some of these perhaps. So what I am going to do with that Catalyst is I'm going to set an approach of 100 kilometers, and I'm going to do that with the cloak on, so that I can drift away. You see, there we are. Drifting away now, just to get a bit of range, because obviously, as I said, there's going to be that 30-second delay when I tap the decloak, which I'm going to do now. See, it's starting to count down. If I try to lock on, it's just going to say, nope, can't do that, because your systems are still calibrating after the use of a cloaking device. It's going to do that every time for all of the ships along the top there. So I need to wait for that cloak there to drop all the way down. So I am going to activate the micro warp drive just to get myself a little bit of range whilst that does so. Just wanted to showcase that, just because some people don't seem to believe me, and 30 seconds is a surprisingly long time. As you see now, it's just about to end, which means now I should be able to lock on. There we are. So now we can retarget that Catalyst, move to about the 65 kilometer mark there. Just make sure that was on the right thing. Oh, getting a little bit of hitching and lag. Gosh, I can't wait for our fibre optic to be installed in 8 to 11 weeks' time. Okay, let's send the drones out at the very least. Yes, I know they can't attack, we're not in range. But we can have them at the ready for when they are. I'm going to zoom right out, and yes, I know you can tap the HUD at the bottom to do a big zoom out, but I don't want to go all the way out. I just want to be at that point where the game starts to put a reticle around your ship to say, oh, yeah, you seem to be a little bit far away. Now, well, we can now focus fire on that catalyst there. It won't, there, I just got the little notification that that second missile launcher won't activate, obviously because I don't have the power grid for it. That's to be expected. It's not something that I am at all worried about. The reason there I'm still keeping that on is just to showcase that obviously you could have theoretically 2 of these if you go for that power grid rig build, which, as you can tell, I haven't. Anyway, drones are whizzing off to go and hit that catalyst. I am actually going to drop the missile and retarget the missile onto that thorax, because these missiles are going to do nothing against a catalyst. Way too small, but should hit the the thorax for a bit of damage there. There we are, we're slowly pulling that catalyst down. Again, remember, these are tier 10 enemies, so they are going to take a fair bit of killing to remove. Once this has gone down and my drones move on to the thorax, I will activate both of those drone damage amplifiers, and we'll have a look at what the DPS actually shoots up to there. So here we are, nearly there, nearly at the point where the catalyst is about to go down. You can see I've taken no damage at all right now because I'm outranging everything. Range tank is best tank. There we are, we're going to do the typical drone thing of having to manually hit the focus fire, aren't we? Yes, we are, because drones. We've still got a bug. Another thing I do want to just address that came up in the comment section a lot on the Prophecy video was people saying, oh, you should just send the drones in and then warp, micro warp drive away to about 240 odd kilometers away. You'll find that one of your drones drops and the others stay. Yeah, that's a bug and an exploit, and I don't recommend doing it because, heck, what happens then when the game gets fixed and you have no skills as a pilot to actually figure out how to play this thing? But there we are, 405.03 DPS, 368.55 of which is coming purely from the drones. This is why I don't think it's overly important. I don't care too much that I've got one missile launcher offline, because those missile launchers are only, well, 36.48 currently. That's what, 73 DPS. In the long run, DPS isn't everything. The ability to survive and keep at this kind of range is much more important than the ability to be able to do any form of damage whatsoever. Let's turn that off, though, because we are going to move that on to the Hyperion, which I'm going to approach now to the 65 kilometer mark, like so. Activate the micro warp drive. All of my drones are going to come back and visit me, because of course they are. I am out of drone control range, so it's fine. But yeah, sorry, what I was saying there was, yes, there is a bug right now. I will say in the video, there is a bug where if you send your drones in and then you sort of power away from them, they will actually stay on the target and keep attacking. Only a couple of them will actually retreat and come back like they're supposed to. That is a bug with drones. It's not 100%, but it does work most of the time. I don't recommend doing it, because all you're doing is teaching yourself how to play the game badly. Like, if you can't do something without using bugs, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I would also be worried, because in the past, CCP with EVE Online have been pretty forthcoming when it comes to handling bugs and people who are using them as an exploit. So I'd rather not be on that particular side of things. I'm just going to play the game properly and enjoy it as we do so. Anyway, while we do this, let's have a look at that Hyperion. These are an interesting ship, actually. I'm kind of looking forward to training up a battleship alt and flying one of these. It reminds me... I'm not entirely sure what it reminds me of. I think it's one of the rifles you see in an episode of Star Trek or something. I seem to remember an episode of Deep Space Nine where there's a guy shooting through walls, and this reminds me a little bit of the gun that he uses. It's been a while since I saw that episode, so in fairness... yeah, I might be completely misremembering. Ask Revjuice. He's good on Star Trek. Anyway, what else do we have? We have a Myrmidon, Corella Myrmidon to command, and the Megathron. And the Megathron, again, look at that. It's a really cool ship. I love twin hull design ships, and the Megathron is definitely up there as one of the coolest looking battleships in the game. Very, very cool. And obviously, I think there's one of the One of the Serpentis Corporation ships is based on the Megathron as well, which looks really cool. Anyway, so the point I'm kind of getting at here is that, yes, like when we showcased the Prophecy, I can sit here at 67 odd kilometers away, still sniping away, pulling these ships down and doing, okay, it's not much damage, it's a very slow burn, but safety is more important than DPS. I always get people come into the comment section of my videos saying, like, look, I've managed to get 3 times as much DPS as you have, and it's like, yes, but you can only do that for 10 seconds of a fight at about 10 kilometers away. I'm sitting here at 67 kilometers, I've yet to even be hit by something in this fight, and when I am, well, I've got a group group shield repairer here that will help me repair my shields and keep myself topped up. And if anything goes completely wrong, I'm far enough away that I can safely warp out and just kind of get on with it. As I said, yeah, slow burn, but as long as I can kill things, it doesn't matter how fast or slow I'm doing it, that just makes me more efficient at it, The idea here is that this is a build that you can just sit back. You can kind of put Netflix on and just watch something. If you want to watch Deep Space Nine and see if you can find that episode, go for it. Because you can just AFK here like this. And interestingly enough, because it requires fewer skills, and it's a cheaper ship, and it's faster to move from A to B, I actually think that the Arbitrator Covert Ops is probably better at this than the Prophecy. And I can imagine some of you watching this are sitting there going, great, I put all of those points into Battlecruiser Command and things like that. I could have just stuck with cruisers. Is that what you're telling me? Kinda, yeah. Yeah, this ship's actually surprised me quite a bit at how effective it is at this tactic. Being able to get theoretically 70 kilometer range out of 3 levels of skills. Get Advanced Cruiser Command up to 5, and get Drone to 5, and suddenly you've got good drone DPS from 70 kilometers away. And this thing will make its money back in no time at all. This is a 50 million ISK mission. Once I've done this, 50 million ISK just on this, plus the loot, plus the bounties for killing all these ships, which you've seen are fairly substantial in and of themselves. This ship only cost, I think, 140, 150 million ISK, if even that? Plus the fittings. Okay, yeah, the drone control range are a little bit expensive on the market now, at about 70 to 80 million a piece. But even then, you're going to be fitting those on the Prophecy anyway, so having a significantly cheaper ship than the Prophecy, and able to do the same thing, and faster to move around, for me, yeah, the Arbitrator Covert Ops gets it. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and bore you to death going through this entire thing. If I get destroyed on this, I will showcase how, if there's anything special that goes on with the elites after, I will put the camera back on and continue recording to talk about how I deal with those elites. I seem to remember doing this one before, though, back in the final test, so I don't think there are any particularly nasty elites in this one, so it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, because I've got that 60-kilometer range advantage over them. Anything coming towards me, I can just micro-warp drive away from it and still hit it with my drones for the most part. Oh no. Anyway, let's put some drone damage amplifiers on there. So, as I said, Arbitrator Covert Ops, is it better than the Prophecy? In my opinion, yes, but that's up for you to decide. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think, if you prefer this, if you prefer the Prophecy, and or why. Let me know. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching right the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!